the empire that nearly ruled the world. What if I told you that long before Rome, before Alexander, before the modern idea of empires, there was Persia, a civilization so vast, so advanced, and so powerful, it ruled over 40% of the world's population, 2,500 years ago. In this video, you'll uncover how the Persian Empire rose from tribal beginnings to become the world's first superpower. You'll meet kings who ruled like gods, engineers who built impossible roads, and generals who defied the limits of strategy. From Cyrus the Great to Xerxes and Darius, this is the story of how Iran carved its name into the bedrock of history. But this isn't just ancient history. It's the origin of ideas we still live by: tolerance, bureaucracy, global trade, and cultural fusion. So stay with us, because by the end of these 15 minutes, you won't just understand how Persia ruled the ancient world, you'll see how it shaped the modern one. Real lives beneath the golden crown. Imagine being a Babylonian priest standing atop your temple, watching the gates open. Not to a burning army, but to a Persian king who bows in prayer and orders the temples restored. That king is Cyrus the Great, and for thousands under his rule, Persian conquest didn't mean destruction. It meant dignity, protection, and religious freedom. But not everyone lived in peace. Soldiers marched for months across deserts. Engineers carved through mountains to build roads. Families were uprooted to colonize distant lands. For every city that prospered under Persian gold, another struggled under Persian command. This was an empire of order, but that order came at a human cost. And when war came, it came like thunder. From Greek hoplites holding the line at Marathon to Egyptian rebels crushed beneath Persian chariots, lives were shaped and shattered by the ambitions of kings who believed their authority came from the gods. The Persian Empire may have preached tolerance, but it still ruled with iron. From nomads to kings, the rise of Persia. The story of the Persian Empire begins not in the marble palaces of Persepolis, but in the rugged highlands of ancient Anshan, where a tribe of Indo-Iranian peoples slowly unified under a visionary leader, Cyrus II. Around 550 BCE, Cyrus overthrew the Median king Astyages and proclaimed the birth of a new empire, one that would stretch farther than any had before. His genius wasn't just military, it was ideological. When he marched into Babylon in 539 BCE, he didn't burn it. Instead, he issued the famous Cyrus Cylinder, considered by some the world's first charter of human rights. He allowed exiled peoples, including the Jews, to return to their homelands. With this, he wasn't just a conqueror, he was a liberator. Under Cyrus and his successors, notably Cambyses II and Darius I, the Persian Empire expanded rapidly. Egypt, Lydia, and vast parts of Central Asia were brought under Persian control. By 500 BCE, the Achaemenid Empire stretched from the Indus River to the Aegean Sea, an unprecedented achievement of logistical and cultural coordination. But expansion brought challenges. New territories meant new rebellions, new languages, and new logistics. Darius III responded by dividing the empire into satrapies, regional provinces with local governors. But even this system would be tested by unrest, treachery, and foreign wars. The foundations were powerful, but not unshakable. Cyrus, Darius, and the dream of empire. The Persian Empire reached its administrative and architectural zenith under Darius the Great. He wasn't just a ruler, he was a builder of systems. He connected his empire through the Royal Road, a 2,700-kilometer artery of communication stretching from Sardis to Susa. Couriers could cross it in mere days, binding the empire tighter than ever before. To unify a realm so vast, Darius introduced a universal currency, the gold daric, standard weights and measures, and a common administrative language, Aramaic. These tools transformed a patchwork of cultures into a functioning imperial machine. Tribute flowed from India, Babylon, and Egypt into royal coffers, fueling monumental projects like the Terrace of Persepolis, a capital built to awe both subjects and visitors alike. But Persia's rising star soon caught the attention of a defiant cluster of city-states to the west, the Greeks. In 499 BCE, the Ionian Revolt sparked a confrontation that would define classical history. Darius launched the first Persian invasion of Greece, only to be defeated at Marathon in 490 BCE, a blow to Persian pride and an omen of storms ahead. Darius's death left the empire to his son, Xerxes I, who launched a second, much larger invasion in 480 BCE. Though he razed Athens, the Greeks struck back with stunning resilience at Salamis and Plataea. For the first time, Persia's aura of invincibility cracked. The West was no longer a frontier, it was a threat. Fall of greatness. From glory to conquest. After Xerxes, the Achaemenid Empire shifted from expansion to consolidation. Though still powerful, its defeats in Greece had wounded its image. Rulers like Artaxerxes I and Darius II faced internal revolts, assassinations, and court intrigue. Provincial satraps, governors meant to serve the king, grew increasingly autonomous, some acting as kings in all but name. Despite these cracks, the empire endured for another century and a half, maintaining a delicate balance through diplomacy, intermarriage, and calculated displays of strength. Persian rulers often preferred soft power. They funded rivals to the Athenians, supported Jewish exiles in rebuilding the temple in Jerusalem, and maintained control by allowing cultural autonomy in their provinces. But the final blow came not from within, but from the west. In 334 BCE, a young Macedonian king named Alexander crossed the Hellespont. Fueled by ambition and a desire for revenge against Xerxes' invasion of Greece, Alexander the Great began a lightning-fast campaign that dismantled the Persian Empire in less than a decade. The decisive moment came at the Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BCE. Despite superior numbers, Darius III was outmaneuvered and fled the battlefield. His assassination by one of his own satraps sealed the end of the Achaemenid dynasty. Alexander entered Persepolis in triumph, and later set it ablaze, symbolically erasing the empire that once sought to conquer his homeland. The structural power of the Persian Empire. What made the Persian Empire endure for over 2 centuries wasn't just conquest, it was organization. At its peak, the Achaemenid Empire governed over 70 million people, stretching from the Indus Valley to the Balkans. It was the first true superpower, and it ran like a machine. Central to this was the satrapy system. The empire was divided into provinces, each ruled by a satrap, essentially a regional governor. These satraps were powerful, but watched closely. Each province had a royal secretary, a military commander, and royal spies, the so-called king's eyes and ears, to report back directly to the great king. Economically, the Persians standardized weights, measures, and coinage. The famous darak, a gold coin stamped with the king's image, became a symbol of imperial unity and economic trust. Roads, especially the royal road stretching over 2,500 kilometers from Susa to Sardis, allowed for communication, commerce, and control across vast distances. Culturally and religiously, Persia didn't force assimilation. Subjects were allowed to keep their languages, customs, and gods, so long as they pledged loyalty. This approach created loyalty through respect, rather than fear. Zoroastrianism, the empire's dominant religion, influenced policies of moral governance, tolerance, and truth. Militarily, the empire's strength lay not only in numbers, but in diversity. Persian armies were multi-ethnic coalitions: archers from Scythia, spearmen from Egypt, cavalry from Bactria. Their elite force, the Immortals, were 10,000 strong, always kept at full strength. They wore scale armor, carried spears and bows, and represented the empire's disciplined core. Secrets and surprises of the Persian Empire. One of the most astonishing facts about the Persian Empire is how modern some of its practices feel. Long before the Roman aqueducts, Persian engineers were building qanats, underground canals that transported fresh water across deserts. Some of these irrigation systems still work today, over 2,000 years later. Another overlooked innovation was the first human rights charter in history, the Cyrus cylinder. Written in cuneiform script, it declared freedom of religion and banned forced labor, concepts that wouldn't reappear in the West for millennia. Some even call Cyrus the Great the world's first civil rights leader. And then there's the Persian postal system. Using relay stations and fresh horses, messengers could carry royal decrees across the empire in a matter of days. Herodotus marveled at its speed, writing, "Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor darkness of night prevents these couriers from completing their appointed course." Sound familiar? That's the same motto later adopted by the U.S. Postal Service. Global impact of the Persian legacy. The legacy of the Persian Empire didn't vanish with its fall. It echoed across continents and centuries. Its model of governance, where diverse cultures were allowed to thrive under a central authority, inspired future empires, from Rome to the Ottomans. Even modern federal systems owe something to Persia's administrative genius. Culturally, Persian art, language, and philosophy shaped civilizations far beyond its borders. From Indian Mughal architecture to Islamic calligraphy and even medieval European court rituals, traces of Persian sophistication are everywhere. Iran's identity today is deeply tied to this imperial heritage, blending ancient pride with modern complexity. Geopolitically, the memory of Persia fuels national narratives, especially in the Middle East. It influences how nations see themselves, how they position power, and how history is interpreted in global affairs. The story of Persia is not ancient dust. It is living memory, shaping decisions, alliances, and identity to this very day. Echoes of an empire lost in time. The Persian Empire didn't just conquer land, it conquered time. From the winds of the Iranian plateau to the palaces of Persepolis, its spirit lingers in stone, language, and legend. What it built wasn't merely an empire of swords and gold, but an architecture of thought, tolerance, and unity rare for its era. As we walk through today's geopolitical storms, echoes of Persia still whisper through power corridors, cultural revivals, and border tensions. It reminds us that empires don't truly die. They transform, mutate, and survive in memories, ideologies, and the stories we choose to pass on. So when we ask how Iran once ruled the ancient world, we uncover more than battles. We discover a blueprint. A world not just dominated by might, but shaped by vision. And perhaps that's what true empire really is.